The Amazon rainforest, the lungs of the planet. A sea of green pumping out much of the world's oxygen. A world unto itself. Each tree, its own complex ecosystem. A towering city, swarming with life. From its buttress roots to its sunlit canopy, providing shelter, a place to find a mate, a place to eat or be eaten. A jungle metropolis where life thrives. But not everyone survives. Deep in the Amazon basin of Peru is one of the jungle's most common fruiting trees, a statuesque fig, standing 40 feet tall. As dawn breaks, the fig tree wakes up. And a new life is about to emerge. A small cocoon hangs perfectly camouflaged in the fig's foliage. As the sun's rays filter through the trees, the chrysalis opens. A butterfly is born. Its wings are damp and crumpled, its colors drab. But within a few minutes, one of the brightest jewels of the forest is revealed. A male blue morpho butterfly. The giant iridescent blue markings on its 8-inch wings have one purpose: to attract a mate. But right now, they're a liability. It will take at least an hour for his wings to dry. Until then, he can't fly. And the bright blue acts like a neon sign. They've attracted one of the fig tree's predatory residents, a bullet ant. It may be just an inch long, but its powerful mandibles are more than capable of killing the young butterfly. It's now or never. At the base of the fig tree, a young tamandua is on the hunt for breakfast. Ants. Ants may be small, but they're among the rainforest's most successful creatures. They make up around 30% of the Amazon's total biomass of land-based animals. More than 40 different species can live on a single tree. The tamandua still has his work cut out. To survive, He must consume more than 9,000 of these tiny insects every day. To reach his target, he pokes and scrapes his way across 2 miles of forest floor. It's hard work. He walks on the edges of his feet to stop his long, curved claws from cutting into him. Poor eyesight means he relies mainly on his sense of smell. And his nose has led him to the fig tree. A line of ants is heading back to its nest. This is where his long claws come into their own. This fellow is just a year old. He's only recently left his mother's side and is still an inexperienced climber. His muscular, prehensile tail curls around the branches like a safety line. It can't hold his weight, but it acts as a counterbalance. Climbing expends a lot of energy. Now he's committed, he can't risk leaving empty-handed. But this tamandua's inexperience is showing. He's lost the ant's trail. Exhausted, he takes a break. Unaware their nest is under threat, worker ants are foraging higher up the fig. In this tree city, they're at the bottom of the food chain. Danger is around every corner. A green anole lizard is also on the lookout for food. This common lizard is adapted for climbing. Adhesive pads on its toes help it stick to the rough bark. Sharp claws give it extra traction. It's a voracious insectivore. Under normal circumstances, he'd make short work of the ants. But he's spotted a bigger prize. A huge forest wasp, at least 4 times the size of an ant, has unwittingly crossed his path. Having caught his oversized meal, the lizard now faces a tough choice. At just 3.5 inches long, he is himself a target for the tree's larger predators. Like this pink-toed tarantula. At 5 inches across, almost twice the size of the anole, it would make quick work of the lizard. The longer it takes him to force the wasp down, the more exposed he is. His usual defense is camouflage, but that only works if you're not moving. The struggling wasp rules out that option. So the anole employs another defense mechanism. To make himself look bigger, he bobs his head and extends the brightly coloured dewlap under his throat. It might just buy him the time he needs to swallow his meal. Further down the fig, the young tamandua is back on the trail of his lunch. A small concentration of worker ants grab his interest, an indication of a bigger prize. He follows them back to their nest. He uses the giant claw on his third digit to rip open the hardened mud covering of the nest, then dives right in. Tamandua's mouths are no wider than a straw. They use their long, sticky tongues to probe for insects. He doesn't eat for long. Giving the colony's soldier ants time to detect the breach and attack him would be a painful mistake. And he's careful not to do too much damage to the nest. Tamanduas conserve their food sources. He'll revisit this nest again once the ants have repaired their home. Ants are one of the few insects to venture all over the fig. They even climb to the very top of the tree, where they make up to 60% of the species found in the canopy. Most other invertebrates avoid the high life, instead preferring the darker, more humid forest floor. Here, decaying plant matter provides the perfect insect environment. Food and cover in one. But this prime location comes with dangers. It makes for easy pickings for ground-based insectivores. To survive, insects living at lower levels must employ every trick in their arsenal. The stick insect is a protein-packed morsel for birds, monkeys, reptiles, even spiders. But it has just one defense to fall back on: camouflage. Many predators rely on movement to spot prey. So staying completely still means stick insects often go unnoticed. They may look like they don't do much, but these specialized invertebrates play an important role in rainforest ecology. The canopy blocks out much of the intense equatorial sun. Less than 5% of sunlight reaches the lower levels of the jungle. Stick insects help ensure it isn't less. Scientists have dubbed them dominant light gap herbivores, as each one devours more than 3 square inches of foliage a day. This might not sound like much, but together with leaf-cutting ants and leaf-eating mammals like the tapir, stick insects clear away huge amounts of lower-level foliage. This allows enough sunlight to reach the forest floor to encourage the next generation of trees. In the Amazon, seedlings need all the help they can get. Away from the clearings, the understory is a dimly lit place. What light does penetrate contains less short-wave ultraviolet and blue and more long-wave red and infrared light. Many plant species in the forest have adapted to cope with this end-of-the-light spectrum, but photosynthesis is a struggle, and progress slow, with some saplings taking more than a decade to show any visible growth. By letting more light through, stick insects enable plants to grow more quickly. This, in turn, creates more food for themselves, one of nature's many ingenious circles of life. Like the stick insect, many insects do their best to blend in. But the iridescent flashes of the newborn blue morpho do the opposite. After almost 2 weeks locked in his chrysalis, the newly born butterfly's reserves have run dry. He needs to eat. Just as it gave his chrysalis protection, the fig tree now provides him with food. Soft, decaying fruit is a magnet for many species of butterfly. They feed through a hollow tube called a proboscis. Sucking up the rotting fruit. If fruit isn't available, butterflies take moisture straight from damp patches on the ground. But any time spent on the forest floor increases the risk of predation. So the blue morpho hides its vibrant display. The dull, muddy colours on the underside of its wings allow it to blend in among the leaf litter, giving the butterfly the time it needs to safely feed. If a predator takes a closer look, the blue morpho has a diversionary tactic. Imposing eye spots aim to deflect an attacker away from its vital organs and towards that spot on its wings. But the best survival strategy of all is escape. Fed and safe for the time being, the blue morpho flits off into the rainforest. This is just the start of his rather focused adventure. In his 3 to 4 weeks of life, he has a single purpose: find a mate and reproduce. But the longer the blue morpho is on the wing, the greater the toll. The rainforest presents many dangers to their beautiful wings. Dense undergrowth and shrubbery, heavy rain, and lucky escapes from hungry mouths can knock off scales, causing significant damage. If he does manage to find a mate, vines covering the fig tree may provide food and shelter for the next generation of morpho eggs and larvae. The fig tree plays host to many species of insect. Most operate in daylight hours, but one bides its time, waiting for night to fall. After sunset, the katydid, a relative of crickets and grasshoppers, finally comes out of hiding. But so does the owl monkey. They're the rainforest's only nocturnal primate. They have evolved large eyes to hunt in the dark. Equipped with more light-sensitive rods and fewer color-sensitive cones, they can pick up the slightest movement in the night-darkened jungle. Unaware it's been spotted, the katydid will be lucky to escape. But the owl monkey isn't the only danger lurking nearby. A neighboring Brazil nut tree harbors a community of killers. Its roots are home to a very special spider. While most spiders are solitary, this one is very different. It's the aptly named social spider. Each one is just a quarter of an inch long, and they can live in colonies of tens of thousands. Just a handful of spider species have evolved to be as communal as ants or bees. Using the Brazil nut tree's roots as anchor points, each spider builds its own web. But then it joins it up to the others, forming a vast, permanent web. This one is 3 feet wide, but they can be 7 times bigger. Each spider maintains its own local gossamer patch, but they all move freely over the entire network. Repairing and maintaining the master web is done in daylight hours. Nighttime is for feeding. The moment a hapless insect blunders into the silky mesh, the social spiders spring into action. They converge on their trapped prey. The victim is wrapped in silk. And regurgitated enzymes liquefy it until it is dissolved enough to digest. This gruesome group effort doesn't stop there. In some species of social spider, the females vastly outnumber the males by as much as 10 to 1. As well as hunting duties, the colony's females also run a daycare. In this communal spider creche, the females regurgitate food not only for their own young, but other spiders' offspring too. As the night progresses, mosquitoes, flies, moths, and even crickets fall victim to the spider's killing ground. The nocturnal katydid forages for petals and leaves and moves perilously close to the spider's death trap. But as the sun rises on a new day, this master of camouflage has managed to survive another night. The katydid returns to the fig tree and settles itself in for another 12 hours rest, and the day shift takes over. Higher up in the fig, the local howler monkeys start up a dawn chorus. Among the loudest terrestrial animals on the planet, their calls carry for over 3 miles. Also performed at dusk, this is a highly territorial song. They're one of the fig's regular visitors, coming to forage on its ripe fruit. But this isn't a one-way street. The fig tree needs the howler monkeys as much as they need it. By eating its fruit, they spread the tree's seeds as they roam the jungle. The section between the understory and the canopy is the fig's equivalent of a primate grocery store. This is where most of its fruit is found, and it has the most monkey visitors throughout the day. But the tree's fruit isn't its only attraction. These small holes dotted up and down the main trunk are the equivalent of an espresso bar. Every morning, they fill up with sweet, energy-giving tree sap, an irresistible pick-me-up for the world's smallest monkey. So tiny, they can fit in the palm of a human hand. The pygmy marmosets. Weighing in at just 4 ounces, the monkeys are equipped with sharp teeth and claws, perfect for carving out the sap holes. And once they're cut, they provide an endless stream of nourishment. As well as sap, the marmosets eat the fig's gum and resin, plus any insects and grubs they find under bark. Because these minuscule primates rely so heavily on the tree for food, they never stray far, only moving on if sap levels run low. Each troop has a tiny home range, just 3/4 of an acre. They spend their entire lives flitting between a small number of trees, many of them fig trees. There are over 100 species of fig in the rainforest. Some species have existed for millions of years. Figs feed over 1,000 species of mammals and birds, more than any other tropical fruit. With so many different varieties of fig in the forest, not all ripen at the same time. And that's good news for one endangered species. This is the unmistakable bald wakari. It may look odd, but its crimson face is good news, a visible indication of its health. Malaria and other blood-borne parasites are a danger to primates in the Amazon. When a bald wakari gets infected, its face becomes paler. A bright red face indicates a healthy monkey, which, in turn, makes it a good choice for a mate. But many still die from parasitic diseases. Combined with habitat loss and poaching, their numbers have been severely depleted. Bald wakaris are now listed as vulnerable. Wakaris do have one natural asset that could help them survive: their immensely strong jaws. They can eat food other animals struggle to open, like Brazil nuts and food with hard skins. This ability gives them more feeding options, and that might give them a much-needed edge. Unlike the howler monkeys, the fig tree isn't just a grocery for the bald wakari. it's also home. The tree's branches and those of its neighbors are a base for this troop. Up to 100 females, babies and dominant males form the core. They may split into smaller units when foraging, but they always rejoin the main group. Like many monkeys, a strict social hierarchy is important in maintaining a happy troop. Grooming reinforces bonds. But this male's not happy. He's feeling the need to assert himself. A leg jerk and bouncing action communicates aggression. And his pheromone-laden scent marking lets everyone know he's the troop's dominant male. As the bald wakaris work out their social standing in the troop, a neighbouring palm is playing host to a far more relaxed creature. A two-toed sloth. Like the monkeys, he spends his life in the trees. But his closest living relatives are anteaters and armadillos. The sloth's pace of life is among the slowest in the rainforest. There's no need for speed. His food is in plentiful supply and within easy reach. Leaves. But while trees encourage fruit eating to spread seeds, their leaves are a different matter. Leaves are their solar panels. In the crowded forest where trees compete for light, leaves are essential to harvest the sun and synthesize food. So, to fend off herbivores, most trees have developed defenses. The most common weapon in their arsenal is to fill their leaves with noxious chemicals. The sloth gets around this by targeting only the youngest leaves, which have fewer toxins. But there's a downside. Young leaves are nutritionally poor, so the sloth must eat almost constantly. When he's not eating, he's sleeping. This gives the 4 chambers of his stomach time to deal with the toxins and absorb as much nutrition as possible. Sloths have the slowest digestion rate of any mammal. However, the sloth does give something back: fertilizer. Once a week, he climbs down to the roots to defecate. There's only one other reason this tree dweller will descend from on high: to find a mate. This male has spotted a female sleeping in a nearby tree. Two-toed sloths don't have a specific breeding season, so it's possible this female might not accept his advances. If so, she'll swat him with her 3 to 4 inch long claws, but not till he's up close and personal. Until then, there's no way for him to know how welcome his advances will be. To find out means traveling across the forest floor, an environment he's not built for and allows him little protection against predation. But the prospect of a mate is proving to be good motivation. So the sloth begins his arduous journey. Once on the ground, he uses his sense of smell to find his way to her tree. He can reach speeds up to just over 6 feet per minute, but this top gear is only when climbing. On the ground, he's a sloth. But this fellow seems determined to reach the female. He's moving extremely fast for a sloth. It may get him over the dangerous forest floor more swiftly, but his burst of speed could also wear him out. Taking a rest down here wouldn't be a smart move, so he powers on. This is a lot of effort with no guarantee she'll welcome his attentions. For a sloth, looking for love is a real leap of faith. High above, a yellow-tufted woodpecker is also expending a lot of energy. He's hollowing out a home for himself and his new mate. As he drills into trunk, the loud knocking echoes across the forest, letting others know this tree is taken. Spongy bone in the woodpecker's skull absorbs the impact of his sky-high drilling. Two clawed toes, pointing forward and two pointing backwards, allow him to climb vertically and anchor him safely as he hammers. He's so secure, he's able to lean backwards, almost horizontally, to inspect his progress. The humidity of the rainforest means his newly constructed home could quickly become infested with parasites or rot. So next year, he may be forced to start from scratch all over again. It's a lot of effort, but for the yellow-tufted woodpecker, it's worth it. A tree hollow 65 feet up makes for one of the safest homes in the forest. Tree climbing snakes are unlikely to make it up this high. At the same time, aerial predators will find it hard to access the chicks nestled inside. Back in the fig tree, a flock of one of the rainforest's most colourful birds is roosting. The highest branches of the tree's canopy are the domain of the red and green macaw. Here in the sunlit emergent lair, they make their homes. Macaws mate for life, but live in flocks of between 10 and 30. As well as shelter, the canopy provides the fruits, nuts, and insects that make up most of their dietary needs. But there's one essential nutrient the tree can't provide: sodium. A mineral vital to nerve and muscle function in many animals, including humans. Constant rain and poor soil means sodium is leached from the rainforest. To maintain their health, the macaws do something very unusual. They eat clay. The heavy mud in the Amazon's riverbanks binds with the little sodium in the environment preventing it from being washed away. So levels of this crucial nutrient are high in the mud, creating what in essence is a macaw salt lick. This unusual behavior may be necessary, but it's also dangerous. Down here, focused on their task, they're exposed and vulnerable. Large raptors like harpy eagles and hawk eagles present the biggest threat. But there's safety in numbers. More birds mean more eyes on the lookout for danger. The macaws wait until up to 300 birds have gathered in the surrounding treetops. They circle the area, checking for predators. Only when they're sure the coast is clear do they descend en masse to the clay lick. Even then, they don't let their guard down. While some macaws feed, others stay in the surrounding trees, watching for danger until everyone has had their fill. As soon as the macaws leave, a close relative moves in to replace them. A flock of blue-headed parrots also arrives in large numbers for predator protection. As the forest's parrots get their dietary supplements, the two-toed sloth has managed to reach his destination without incident. Unsurprisingly, the female he's been aiming for hasn't moved. After his race across the forest floor, he now faces an arduous climb. But there's no sense in rushing things. Once he reaches a safe height, he takes time to recharge his batteries before the final push. Romeo needs a nap. It's clear his quarry isn't going anywhere. Two-toed sloths are masters at sleeping. They can spend between 15 and 20 hours a day dozing. But today, the male has other things on his mind. After a short power nap, onwards. This has been a huge effort for our Lothario. His normal daily exercise covers just a few feet. As he slowly zeroes in on his target, what will she do? The female turns towards him. And he's in luck. Her response suggests the effort was worth it. Sloth life is so entwined with the trees they call home that they'll mate up here. But male passions are fickle. After mating, he leaves. In 10 months' time, the female will give birth to a single baby high off the ground. For sloths, the trees are shelter, restaurants, and nursery, all in one. In the equatorial rainforest, darkness falls quickly. At higher latitudes, the setting sun disappears behind the horizon on an angle, so light lingers. But But here, nearest the equator, the sun sets perpendicular to the horizon. This means it disappears much more quickly with a lot less residual light. Back in the fig, the night shift of the hunters and the hunted once again emerges. A blunt-head snake takes to the lower boughs of the tree to hunt for frogs. Unlike many snakes, he has excellent sight. His giant protruding eyes and vertical pupils also allow him to look down, giving him a hunting advantage in the pitch black. But while the arboreal night shift workers ply their trade, the fig tree itself could be said to sleep. Tree branches droop as much as 5 inches at night, as they shut down photosynthesis after dark. Now, like all trees, the fig focuses instead on respiration, releasing carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. At dawn, along with the Amazon's 300 billion other trees, the fig will return to its day job, making the world's oxygen. For the species that call this tree home, it plays the central role in the soap opera that is life in the jungle. As the new day dawns, the cycle of love, life and death among the trees starts all over again.